Greetings, everyone. It's Dr. Mordecai, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Discovering Your Mission with Dr. Mordecai. On today, my guest, Dr. John J. Rainone, president of Mountain Gateway Community College. How often did you get a chance to listen to the wisdom of someone who played a role in actually starting up a community college from the ground up? Well, that's what you're going to hear on today from Dr. Rainone. You're also going to hear some insights on what he believes is going to be the future of rural education in the community college space. I can't wait to share that information with you on today. John J. Rainone has served as an educator for over 33 years. He has served on various boards. He has a national presence. He has also been awarded the Entrepreneurial President of the Year by the National Association of Community College Entrepreneurship. This is someone who is truly gifted as an educator and as a higher ed executive. Without further ado, my interview with Dr. John J. Rainone. Greetings, everyone. It's Dr. Mordecai here for Discovering Your Mission. And today I have a special guest, an educator that I have admired for a number of years. He was kind enough when I was a dean, perhaps at the time, to begin relationship and conversations. It just was an encouraging colleague and educator, and dare I say mentor, that has certainly been a support. And when I had a chance to see him last year, I said in my mind, I've got to get him on the show. And so I'm super excited, everyone. We have the president of Mountain Gateway Community College, Dr. John Rainone. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you, my friend. We're going to jump right into it. So I've had a chance to introduce you to the audience already. And so I'm just curious to know. I always like to start with this question. Share with us the journey. What was the journey that led to you becoming the president of Mountain Gateway Community College?
So as I've learned, I've been in community colleges for 33 years, 3 colleges. This is my 3rd college. And what I have, I guess my journey really started the first day I was at a community college as an adjunct faculty member. I was a couple of years out of college. This was in New Hampshire. I was fortunate to get an adjunct position teaching a communications class. And I walked in and it was an evening class. And I was probably the youngest person in the room. Okay. And we went through the class, and by about the 3rd week, I knew this is where I wanted to be, whether a faculty member or administrator or whatever it might be. And I continued to be an adjunct. I'm still an adjunct because I really like being sort of in the trenches with the students. Okay. And then I was in training and development, basically at that particular time, working for a trade association. And I had an opportunity at the end of, I think, 2 years of being an adjunct. I've had conversations with the dean, who is a mentor of mine at that time in continuing ed and workforce development. And he gave me an opportunity to basically do workforce development and customized training and so forth. And I was fortunate there. And the first day I was there, I met what would be my future wife. So that was even, that was even, but I did workforce development for 6 years there. And then I really had this opportunity to move to Southern Maine to help start a brand new community college. And I thought about this as, when would I ever have an opportunity to start a brand new community college? It was the 7th community college in the Maine community college system. It was going to serve the 2nd most populated area. And I was fortunate to get the workforce development position at that time. And, that's where I really got this entrepreneurial spirit, because at the time, the governor said, you can go build your college, but we have no money. So we had operational dollars, but, our first 2.5 years, our college was in a rented hotel. Wow. My office, as I jokingly tell, is my first office was a vending room, and I still have the sign as a memento. It was the best experience. I love being a president But those 18 years that I spent there was really the best experience, because it truly was, it was, if you want a lesson in being entrepreneurial, that's what you had to be. Okay. I was the ninth person hired. I ended up, when I left 18 years, I was the second longest standing individual. I had multiple roles from workforce. And I had a president who said to be a college president, you need to have fundraising experience. And he asked me to move into the institutional advancement and run our foundation as VP. And I did it for 13 years, and that was absolutely the best job of all of them. But I also served as interim CFO, interim academic dean. My workforce job, I was really part of the academic affairs team. So curriculum development and everything else. So that experience allowed me to do really everything in a college. So when I started interviewing for presidencies, and I came here, I knew that the fit, the day I left, the day of my campus interview, my wife said, because she was with me as part of the interview process, she said, "You're going to be disappointed if you don't get this job." And within 24 hours, I had gotten called and gotten offered the position. And it was just, so I've been able to take those previous 23 years into these 10 years and really look at things very entrepreneurial. And, one piece of advice I would recommend, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, is when opportunities present themselves, take them. And I feel like if I didn't say no to, or if I said no to being an interim, or if I had this opportunity or if I said no to being a fundraiser and everything, I'm not sure I would have been, it would have brought me here. And I'm not sure that the successes I've had, I would have been able to have without doing that.
I appreciate that, John. You've said so many, you've created so many opportunities here for us to unpack. And we're going to do our best to do this as quickly as possible. Let me ask you this. Let me start here. When you got the opportunity to help start up a college, again, that's not something that you really hear about, college presidents or educators getting an opportunity to have such an experience.
Right.
And then from there, you begin to talk about entrepreneurship. Can you talk to us about the lessons that you learned through a college startup that perhaps the listeners and watchers today can glean something from?
Sure. So the messages I continue to say is, with the state of higher ed and funding, all of us would love to say, we have all the money in the world from our state legislature and everything else, and the pie is only so big. And we certainly understand and respect that. Colleges, and especially community colleges, because we're so nimble, we have to be, my previous president had the mantra from, find a way or make one. Okay. Find a way or make one. And the approach was, if we cannot, we can't sit back and wait for the state to take care of us or some normal approaches. So you really need to think about things. There's, thinking out of the box is in my mind, there's really no box. So you really have to approach it thinking about how to find creative ways. And, I'm a believer of the principles of effectuation. And one of them is, making lemons out of lemonade. Okay. And bird in the hand. And bird in the hand means what things do you have, and don't complain about the things you don't have. And how can you really move forward with the things that you have? And if I could just use an example that I've been working on for 3 years here, we are trying to build a brand new new workforce development center in another part of our service area. It's an old building. It was a Ford dealership, and we were fortunate to have a donor who donated the building to us, but it could not go through the regular state process. So I created a separate real estate foundation. The real estate foundation accepted that building. We've been raising private dollars, federal dollars. We've just exceeded the $5 million mark. It's about a $5.5 million project. We will start phase 1 at the end of this month. Because if I had to look at that and say, well, we got to go through the state process and it will take 7 years to go through and it's not a criticism. It's just the way it is. In seven more years, I might be retired. So, the idea would be, do I really feel like this is important to this part of the service area, which is the growing part of our rural service area? And we can bring the heavy trade programs that we already have on our main campus to this particular area. And we were fortunate to also acquire a much smaller building. And I believe the evidence is already there in the first 2 months. So we acquired a smaller building adjacent to this larger building. We were able to get a small grant. We renovated that, and we started classes August 21st. We have 5 classes and over 50 students with limited marketing, with limited dollars, and we are starting that. So honestly, I think that's really an indication about the boom that this larger building will take care of, be able to meet. And it's really those entrepreneurial spirit approaches that I think that we all have to really approach things as we look at trying to serve our communities.
Thank you for that, Doctor. I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. Did you always know that you wanted to be a college president? I mean, how did you, but not necessarily how you became one, but did you always know that you wanted to be one?
So when I was at the newer college, about 4 years in, which would have been, it would have been 25 years ago, I knew I wanted to be a college president. And I was, again, my mentor, who was my dean from the first job, he was the one that really pushed me to get a doctorate and everything else. And I knew I'm a first generation college student. I had extremely supportive parents who were high school graduates. They did not have the opportunity to go to college. I have myself and my twin sisters. We're all, we all have degrees. I'm the one with advanced degrees and so forth, but came from that household that they knew education was important. And my mentor said, well, get your doctorate degree, because then it would open up a number of options. And it was sort of going through that process. I really felt like I know I could be a president, but I had to find the right thing. And I did a number of the, so you want to be a college president. Yeah, I was one of the early people who did the League for Innovation Executive Leadership Institute. That was before AACC's program and other, before Aspen and so forth. And I really had that week. One of the messages I remember is one of the leaders said, well, by the end of this week, you're going to know number one, do you want to be a president? Or number two, do you not want to be a president, which is just as important? And I knew I wanted to be a president. That sort of just really confirmed me. And I'm pretty critical of my experience and my skills. So I tend to will know where my weak spots are. And that was why this opportunity, when I had the chance to become a CFO, now I could document that I managed the entire budget for the institution and actually went through a budget cycle. The academic affairs piece. I was fortunate that when I came here, this college was looking for an external president. I'm honored to be only the fourth president in 62 years of this institution. In our previous three presidents who did amazing job, they were much more internal. And I am much more of an external person. My mission, and I know we're jumping ahead, that word community is so important to me. Okay. It's our middle name, or in your case, it's your first name. But that word community is so critical to what we do, that we and I learned that many years ago. And that's that. So I did know I really wanted to be a president early on, and I tried to work on. I had a couple of opportunities in New England. You go through the search process, which is another recommendation, is go through the experience of that. Okay, be able to, because I was really trying to test myself to see if I was going to be able to compete nationally. I knew that family is extremely important. An Italian background, family is extremely important. I knew that, and I'm fortunate to have my parents still with us, and my family's all in New England. And I knew that I could not be days away or across the country, so you sort of limit yourself. And as you look at being a president, understanding, and the one question I asked my wife, because the day I interviewed, they had a team of individuals that took my wife and the community and everything. And I asked my wife one question: can you live here? And she said yes, because then everything else was sort of out of our control. You have to fit in the community. You have to feel like that you can fit in your community. I'd recommend don't take a presidency just for the sake of taking one. I would take one to make sure that it fits with your inner mission, your beliefs, and think about that. Can you live here for 5 years and be able to make a difference?
I love it. It's so many gems that you just dropped, John. So let me ask you this. You have a passion for rural education. You've just rolled off of being the chair of the Rural Community College Alliance. So let me set that foundation and ask you this question. Tell me, what do you think the future of rural higher education is? What stays on your mind regarding the future of rural higher education?
So there are certainly common things that are from a legislative agenda. There's still broadband. Okay, there's still access to broadband issues for our learners. That became much more prevalent during the pandemic. Okay, so we added, just like most other colleges in the country, we added boosters in our parking lot for Wi-Fi, and we did all of those types of things. And I would drive through the campus, and we'd have a number of students in their cars working on their homework because that was Wi-Fi. We're fortunate in our community because a couple years ago, our provider actually made a commitment. So we're pretty much 97% broadband in our particular community, but nationwide that is not the case. So broadband issues, which opens up access and equity and so forth to our learners, it's so critical. And it's much different than being in Washington, D.C. or in Denver, Colorado, or so forth. So being able to really address that particular area. The other thing, the other big piece is the farm bill. Okay, the Farm Bill is critical. We have a number of community colleges. I have friends and colleagues in Iowa and so forth that their their communities are farm communities, and being able to address the needs of farmers and future farmers and innovation with farming is another critical area for rural colleges or rural serving. So I will say rural colleges, but also rural serving. We have a number of larger institution that has a rural campus, and truly is a rural, and their needs are certainly a little different. The other thing is, I would say that we have dealt with the last 2 years at the Rural Community College Alliance has really been about access, and I would say access with transportation. I remember a colleague of ours, another community college president, who says, the closest Walmart is 90 minutes away. Okay. So yeah. I mean, and you think Walmart's on every corner, but it's not. Okay. It's not. So being able to, so transportation, and if students cannot get to your campus, okay, one of the things that I'm pretty proud of that in the last 10 years is we've been able to expand our footprint in our service area. We have an 1,800 square mile service area. And what was really important for me is this access piece, that you may not be able to come to us because you're 45 minutes, but we will. So we've been in high schools. This other facility I've mentioned, we have a center in this same community, but it's not large enough to do the trades. But we've offered classes in other areas at businesses. We've offered classes at high schools. So it really has been able to and certainly online. But if you offer online, then you need to have, you need to make sure that you have the broadband. So those are at least 3 rural topics that continue to come up. And how do we attract students to our particular rural area who may be coming from Washington, D.C. or something, because it is a culture shock as well. New topics on the horizon is housing for rural colleges. We do not have housing on our campus. We have limited housing even in our community. Okay. We would rather work on housing partnerships and refer our students to those partnerships, but we have limited housing available. Many rural colleges are adding athletics because as a way to recruit students, but along with that, you need the infrastructure of housing, of other services, even like cafeteria services and everything. So those are newer topics that have started to bubble up and really will continue to, I think will be the new hot topics as we move forward.
Very, very, very insightful conversation dialogue there, John. I've got 2 more questions for you if you got some time. The one question is really sticking out to ask you. 33 years of being an educator, and you've served in high risk environments. High risk being that, as you talked about economic mobility, as you talked about rural education, as you talked about entrepreneurship, the startup, these were situations where it wasn't just handed to you. You had to create workforce development. You're having to ensure social economic mobility, be relevant to workforce partner needs. Everything is really, you've got to show yourself approved. You've got to put points on the boards, as I like to say. So that's what I mean as I define that. So my question to you is, to have been operating 33 plus years to go at such a high level, how have you sustained yourself? Because I can't tell you how many educators I talk to today that are frequently talking about burning out. They're frequently talking about, I'm done. I don't have it. What advice do you have to have lasted this long and still have gas in the tank to keep going?
Yeah. Well, I think, like many of us, COVID almost did me in, just with that experience. And I never thought I could work from home. And actually I started getting into my, into the swing of that and being able to do that. But you can't be effective sitting behind a desk. Okay. Whether you're fundraising, whether you're, working with students or not. But we all had to do that. We all had to deal with that. I've always been it really has been more of an intrinsic thing, knowing that whenever I leave, I'm going to leave the situation better than I found it. And in my last job, which honestly, I love that institution, again, as one of the founders, I always had 2 or 3 things I needed to get accomplished. And these are bigger things than the daily activities. When I've come here, I was taking 5 years at a time, being able to explore. And after 5 years, I really looked and I said, well, I'm far from done. Okay, I'm far from done. And then it was another 5 years. And again, after 10 years, which was this past summer, I started really looking and I said, I got to get this workforce development center done. This semester, after 2 years of having declining enrollments, we're back up in enrollment. So really being able to sustain that. Fortunate that we have a wonderful new chancellor of the Virginia Community College system. So being able to work with him, in the short term, and he's got this wonderful vision, and really see that the community colleges are receive its due financially from the governor, who's been a big fan of the community college system, and to really try to fill those jobs, the empty jobs with certifications and everything. I mean, that could be a whole hour just on itself. But being able, so the way I look at this is I'm always finding those 2, 3, 4 things that continue to motivate me, these bigger projects that will continue to motivate me. I love to work. I like, I've always said that, we spend more waking days at work typically, and you have to like your work. Everybody hates a day here or there, or had a tough day or something. But if you don't like where you're working, then I think you need to sort of address that on your own. I like where I'm working. I like the work that we do. I feel like we are making a difference. And again, I come back to that word community. If I didn't feel like if we were just putting the same widget in the same hole and turning the crank, then, I would start thinking about early retirement or looking for another opportunity. And so really my motivation is this intrinsic thing of always really saying to myself, well, you're not quite done, and someday when I do retire, I'm not going to be done. Hopefully I can be teaching or consulting or something. So, that will always keep me continue to be sharp and active.
My last question for you, my friend, and you've already began talking about this, but I wanted to tee this up because I'm sure that there's much more there. The name of the show is called Discovering Your Mission. And this has been with the heart of creating this show to share so much wisdom, but the wisdom that's shared all is a result of the mission that individuals, or the purpose or the dedication that each individual has for their own life that drives them to do this work. So I would love to ask you now, Dr. John Rainone, what is your personal mission statement and why?
Yeah. I sound like a Boy Scout, which I was, but it really is to make a difference. It really is from a work perspective, as I said, is that word community really drives me. And that is really a mission of mine is to serve the greater community. And if I can do that as president, I can do that as even a retiree, somewhere down the line, or even in another role, serving that community from a work perspective. From an individual perspective, my mission is my family. I have, we're blessed to have a 16-month-old granddaughter who has really been so much fun, and they live only 10 minutes from us. So that's really important to be able to sort of look at your own, you look at your life differently, now and everything. I did that when our daughter was born and being able to do that. But the other thing is my personal interest, my license plate is a vanity plate, and it's got the Greek word Eupheus, all right, Eupheus, and it's active seeking of knowledge. And in my mind, the day I stop seeking of different things, I'm a really good generalist. I'm far from any expert in any area, because I really love learning about a lot of things. Okay. And again, just surface things, but really not necessarily any expert in anything. But I really love learning about a lot, and I always, I put that on my license plate because it really is I think when we stop looking for knowledge, if we stop looking for the truth or whatever it may be, then I think that we form these opinions that are not fully accurate. And in my mind, I feel like, I'm going to be informed of situations and information, because that's just me. And, some of that from our relationship on social media, and being able to pick up some social media stories, and, and reading some of the higher ed dailies, or even the community types of things, is just really having that active seeking of knowledge is really important to me. And and again, I think by saying I'm a generalist, I think from how I just described that, I didn't give you one answer, because I'm sort of all over the place, but that's really the truth on how I approach things.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. John Rainone, president of Mountain Gateway Community College. John, thank you so much for your time.
Dr. Rainone, once again, thank you so much for your time and wisdom shared. At this point in the show, I'd like to share with you my 3 key takeaways. Now, certainly in this episode, there were many key takeaways, but here are my 3 that I would like to share with you at this time that spoke to me. Number 1, Dr. Rainone said, when opportunities present themselves, take advantage of them. I think that's something that can encourage you perhaps on your personal journey as you're weighing a few different opportunities that may be in front of you, and just understanding that when opportunities come about, you want to take advantage of them. You never know where that opportunity may take you further. All right. Secondly, and I love this, one of the presidents that Dr. Rainone served had this mantra, and his mantra was, find a way or make a way. Find a way or make a way. I absolutely love that. It's this reality that there are going to be opportunities and barriers and challenges that we face as we seek to advance our institutions and our organizations. But we shouldn't let that stop us. We have the responsibility to find a way or make one. I absolutely love that. Last but certainly not least, Dr. Rainone says, know the realities your students are facing. It's so important that through responsibility, through integrity of your institutional mission, your strategic plan, that you know the voice of your students, and that you are moving barriers. You are creating opportunities. You are utilizing resources effectively to transform your students' lives. Understanding that in order to be that effective, you have to know the realities that your students are facing. Champions, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I certainly enjoyed participating in the making of this episode, and there certainly are more episodes to come. I look forward to seeing you soon at itsdrmordecai.com. Take care, everybody.